Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're joined by Natalie Thompson, the director of Pangaea Global Associates, a specialist executive search firm placing senior level talent across the. Oh my God, let me start again. Today, we're joined by Natalie Thompson, the director of Pangaea Global Associates, a specialist executive search firm placing senior level talent across the enterprise software and technology space. Natalie, very warm welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Amazing. It's lovely to have you here. So with all my guests, I like to start at the beginning of their journey. So what was it that you was doing before you started Pangaea, and then what motivated you to start up the company from there?
Okay, so I went to university to do drama because I wanted to be an actress, and then I dropped out because I didn't like the course. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and I ended up in IT sales. So very similar.
Very similar. I've heard that before.
So yeah, my dad made me get a job at a local company, and I got into selling IT equipment, and it was right at the beginning, before the internet. I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So I got into that, and then my second job was working for a software. It was a software reseller, and they were really ahead of the game with things like server-based computing and internet security. So it felt like, I was 19 when I joined that company in telesales, and it felt like it was just such a quick learning curve. It was a very small company.
Yeah.
And I was just really lucky to get into a company at just the right time. I still say it was like a family at the time, but it grew into one of the biggest managed security companies across Europe. And I sold the first two managed firewalls for Checkpoint in Europe. So at a very young age, really. So I never went back to university because I was earning quite a nice amount. I had a little SLK, which I loved. And but it was really weird because I was like the least technical person on earth, honestly. Not really. I'm still not that technical. And then from there, after a few years, I had a child, etc. And then decided I wanted to work for myself. Some things had gone on in my life where I just wanted the flexibility, and working for somebody else just did not offer that at all. And I remember racking my brains thinking, oh my God, what can I do? Because this has got to work. I want to be able to pick my child up from school, give her a tea, and not be like, have all that guilt. And that was just where kind of Pangaea was born. It was like, hang on a minute, okay, recruitment. I'd done a little bit of recruitment from the company that I was with when they were being acquired, just to help out. And I thought, you know what, I think I can do this. I think because it doesn't include selling a product. The person is the product.
Yeah.
But it does involve going out, finding the right kind of people. I don't think there weren't really many companies out there at the time that knew what kind of software companies were looking for, especially around things like enterprise sales. So I just took a bit of a punt, and I just thought, I'm just going to do it. And I think it was a really good example of when your why is really strong.
Yeah.
Like I was on my own. Like I say, I wanted to be a mum as well, and it had to work, and it just had to work. And I remember the first 9 months, so I decided I was going to work with software vendors because that's where I'd come from, software vendors. And for some reason, I started in Dubai. I know, I find people in Dubai. I don't know why I decided that. Don't ask, it's just happened. And I remember it took me about 9 months to get my first placement, and it's the only time I've ever cried, because it was getting so close to being like the funds were dwindling. I didn't have anything to help me along. And I remember thinking this placement was coming, and then it didn't come. And I just remember being like in floods of tears. But I guess it's when it's your baby, it feels like that. It's much more personal.
Yeah.
So anyway, then stuff started to happen. Started working with some of the big vendors out there, and then over time, just working with the vendors and really seeing it's definitely a relationship. It's about relationships. It's about helping people on both sides of the coin, whether it's the hiring manager and understanding what they want, whether it's the candidate and helping them with what they want. And I think what's really been helpful for me is I haven't come from a recruitment background. I wasn't trained in how to do recruitment. And I think that really served me because there was always a feeling of I really want to help this hiring manager find the right people, and I really want to be completely honest with the candidates.
Yeah,
Don't want to pretend that something is what it isn't just so that I can put food on the table. And I've always had
yeah,
that mindset. And it's worked. It's worked well. It's just about being authentic and honest. And I do see that recruiters get a really bad rep, and I can understand that. We're not all the same.
I
So
love that. No,
yeah, that's where when it sort of it started out in just doing IT any roles, and then over time it became more the senior, like the VPs,
yeah.
enterprise sales, pre-sales, and then the VPs and the C-suite as well, anywhere in the world.
How cool. And it's all started in Dubai, ironically. How mad is that? And then stretch from there. So I'm
Yeah,
assuming
that was just dipping my toe. I was dipping my toe, and then yeah, it was interesting doing business in Dubai at that point. Like talking about 2013, I just really saw there was a lot of stuff around the gender, a lot of
yeah,
stuff around where people are from. That was new. I was like, wow, this is different.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, it was just where it started. It was I think it was just an idea of differentiating. How can I be different? How can I
yeah.
be different? What if I try
No, I love
something else? And don't get me wrong, that was not my biggest market at all. It became the UK and Europe and the US. But it was a good way to start.
Yeah, no, I can gather that. It's almost as if, as you say, when you've got other challenges, such as like gender, political issues that may be happening in Dubai at the time, fitting
Mm.
profiles on different sides, it teaches you a lot of skills early on that you can relate to once you're growing at scale because you've got those like
Yeah,
challenge cases under your belt already, if that's fair to say. And
yeah,
they're definitely coming from sales into recruitment. The skills are nicely relatable, and
yeah.
recruitments do get a bad rep. So it's good to
Yeah.
kind of clean that up.
And I think as well, like what I also learned from those early days when I was saying yes to everything,
Yeah,
you're like, starting from scratch. You say I had a certain amount of money that I could work with. That was rapidly
yeah,
declining. And you start panicking and you're like, oh, so you start saying yes to everything. And it got to a point where I just thought, do you know what? I actually know now what I don't want. There's real power in that. It's like over time, over the years, I've been able to say, no, I'm not gonna work on that fee. I'm not gonna work with what you're asking for there. I don't agree with that. That doesn't fit my values. No. So there's been a lot of that over time. I've had to say no to clients, and that's cool. That's fine. If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate.
yeah. You have to just let them go at the end of the day. As you say, it's not going to be good on both sides if
Absolutely.
the vibe's not there, to
Yeah.
put it so loosely. So let's dive into the business model today, so the listeners can have some more context. Who would you say is your ideal customer? And then from there, maybe we can move into what it'd be like to actually work with you.
My ideal customer. Startups, ideally, probably from the beginning through to like up to 200 people seems to be the sweet spot. Found in recent years is up until that point, I can do lots of work with them. Then there comes a
Yeah.
point where they grow and they say, do you know what? We're going to take all this in-house now,
Yeah, okay.
which is absolutely fine. The beauty now is with the new AI talent partner model that I've recently put out there is that there is now a solution where I can still work with those internal teams.
Cool. Okay, nice.
So we can come on to that. But yeah, essentially, anybody who is growing, who wants to get the right people on board for the culture fit straight away.
Mm,
Ideally, they've probably had some investment and are just looking on a bit of a hiring spurt, but also who want to look at their culture as well, because I do coaching around, as we were talking about,
yeah,
around
of course.
leadership, really looking at the mechanisms of the mind and how they are influencing culture from the top down and breaking some of those, shall we say, forecasting the predictions of
Yeah.
the mind, which potentially can be blocks and create toxic cultures.
How cool. So is that kind of, do you work that in with Pangaea on the recruitment side, or is that completely separate and just
Yeah,
under?
no, it's part. I do coaching around anxiety as well, anxiety, depression, and etc. But it all fits in very nicely because it's the same stuff underneath. It's working with the ego thought system and showing
Yeah,
people how to step out of that because that is a monster, and
yeah.
we're all battling with it. We're all battling with what it's saying and thinking that this might be a bit too esoteric, thinking that there are thoughts. So that's a whole new another conversation.
Whole
Uh,
conversation. But
yeah,
it's very true. And I feel like, especially in leadership roles, in top end roles, not necessarily specifically to SaaS and tech, but imposter syndrome must sneak in a lot as well, and that's something that you have to overcome as part of that mental barrier and coaching alongside starting a new role or putting somebody into a role at a startup company.
Yeah. I think what I mean, I saw very early on, I can see now when I look back, going into an environment at a young age which was extremely competitive, and really seeing how we all wear this mask depending on what the culture is saying that you have to be. And I
Yeah,
remember it was very much you had to be in at a certain time. If you left later, even though you didn't have any work to do, that was frowned upon. So people would be at the desks pretending to be there until 6:30 when it looked like it was okay to leave. Little things like that. We had two teams, Jedi and Sith, they called us, right?
yeah,
Obviously a
love it.
Star Wars fan, the sales manager. But even that was like it was pitting each other against each other, and there was a lot of internal conflict and little cliques,
Yeah,
driving. And at a young age, that was for me, I just remember it being overwhelming and so hard to pretend to be this person that I wasn't really.
yeah,
And obviously now working for myself, I don't have to play those games anymore. But I can see how people do think I've got to show up as this person. And it is the inauthenticity and the abandonment of yourself which is creating all these mental health problems.
amazing. Yeah, yeah,
So really, there is a place to be in your self energy and to be in your own truth and be more creative and be somebody who can achieve, but from that place, not from the mind. We're talking about coming into heart-centered leadership rather
yeah,
than the mind-driven, which is always going to be about somebody else beating somebody else or being right. Wow, what if we don't try and be right and we just let things unfold and from that place of truth rather than wanting to be right and wanting to win?
yeah. As you said before, it's that ego syndrome, getting the ego out of the way and just
Yeah.
letting nature take its course. Sometimes things will work out, and if they don't, you're there to step in and encourage the right direction when it gets there.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that this kind of hustling to the grave attitude is actually not, it's not actually doing what you think it's doing. It works on some level, but how many people, so just to come back to what you were saying about leaders and what I've seen with a lot of leaders that I've spoken to are that they can't relax. It's
yeah,
all about achieving what's the next thing, what's the next thing, get the next thing, whether it's the car or the house or you reach the
yeah.
certain amount of funding, you get that yay for about 5 minutes, then poof,
On to
now
the
what?
next. Yep.
Because you're still dealing with yourself.
Yeah.
And
It was.
everybody's looking out there to fix that feeling. And it's
Yeah.
actually this and this that has to be solved. When I talk to a lot of the sort of executive leadership teams, they'll talk about going on holiday and not even being able to relax. Like for 2 days, they can manage it. And then it's just like they want to get back and they want to get sorted. It's what are you doing it for? If you can't
No.
actually enjoy it, what are you doing it for? So a lot of them are actually working off a frazzled nervous system, that hyperachievement, which is coming from the belief that if they're not achieving, they're not worthy. And it's all coming down to sort of the hidden mechanisms of the ego thought system, which is driving all of that. So it's good to look at it and get it out of the way.
100%. Yeah, I
Mm,
love that completely. And I suppose again, it dwindles on what is success if you can't enjoy it when you get there. So what are you chasing at the
yeah,
end of the day?
agree.
Crazy. I want to
Mm.
shift back to the business a little bit before we come through to things. So when it comes to acquiring your customers, how do you go about doing that? Is there any kind of specific channels or methods that you're finding most effective at the moment?
Yeah, so in the past, it's always been about reach out on LinkedIn, finding the kind of companies that maybe have just, like I say, received funding, or you might see jobs, or somebody might introduce me. That's kind of been the way it's worked in the past. I've really seen in the last 18 months that's shifted. I feel like a lot of people are just, even me, I come in the morning and the amount of emails, sometimes I just go delete, I don't know who you are, I'm not even going to look at it. And I think everybody's doing that because everybody's overwhelmed with the amount of information, the amount they've got to do, all the new technology. Everyone's got a lot on. So the things that used to work don't seem to be working. Um,
Yeah,
so this was why I recently thought, okay, it's time to do something a bit different. So now what's happening with me now is I'm starting to use a lot more outreach based on AI, doing some of the searching and
cool.
and also the reach out as well. So there's a lot of nice stuff available now so that you can automate that, but still with a personal touch. And that's going to
Yeah,
work on both the client side and the candidate side to speed
100%.
things up and bring things from maybe 6 to 8 weeks to find the people for a long list or short list to 10 days, 14 days to get a good stream of candidates who are going to be right. Yeah, AI, I think it's one of those where I've sat back for a little while thinking, what am I going to do here? Where do I use this? And feeling a little bit like I'm going to become obsolete, to actually know when you use it in the right way, you can leverage AI. You've got to have the human touch. But you can speed things up. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. The
Yeah,
way
agree.
you can just go, can you just write me an email? It's like, wow, that is tremendous.
Think of all the time you'd have saved throughout your whole life if that would come in 30 years ago. It's wild, isn't it?
No, but we probably weren't ready for it then. And there's a lot of people saying, oh God, it's going to take over and what if it's wrong and blah, blah, blah. You could still write something, check it and put
Yep.
your own touch with it. But yeah, I think it's phenomenal.
No, it really is. And as you say, when you intertwine it with the human connection as well, you have a powerhouse because it is doing that all correction for you and the automated side, but tweaking it and
Yeah.
pretending it's a human
Yeah.
is the
And
way to do it.
this is it. If you can do an outreach and it's going to pull in someone's company name and their name and send it out to 2,000 people within the space of, I know they have to filter it through, but within the space of a few days, rather than trying
Yeah.
to do that manually, like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So are you implementing the AI outreach onto LinkedIn at the moment?
Yes, I've got a few ways of doing it. So we've basically put together an AI tech stack, which
Okay.
I've been testing now for about the last 6 weeks or so for both client outreach and candidate outreach. So yeah, it's going out finding the right kind of companies, it will tell me who's hiring, who's not hiring, who's just left a
Yeah.
job, who hasn't just left a job, and actually target those people and bring them in and then put them on lists and just keep
Nice.
automating that way. Yeah, it's really
Yeah, keeping on top of everything. And I know you mentioned earlier on that you're implementing some sort of AIs yourself. Is this the same thing as what you're looking to process? Is it very similar
yeah. I'll be using it for both, for using it for finding new clients and with the clients, and also for my own
for your
head
personal as
in
well?
as well. Yeah. So it's going to be used for everything.
Amazing. And then I suppose in terms of like marketing, sales, and all the back end side of things, do you have a team that you work with, or are you mainly doing most of that yourself as well?
Yeah, I've got a team that I'm working with on it. I couldn't do this on my own. Good God, honestly, because I was thinking when I first looked at the tech stack and I was like, okay, these ones work. And like I said, I've worked with some consultants around which ones to implement together and
Yeah.
testing them. And anyway, they've helped me with putting something together and then I'm testing it. But honestly, there's a lot to learn. There's a
Yeah.
lot to learn, and I'm sure there'll be companies out there that will say we could just do it ourselves. Good luck with that, because because I've been doing recruitment and headhunting for 16 years, and it's I might as well be learning the guitar.
Yeah.
You could put in, which I did once. I went to one lesson and I was like, a nice idea, but no.
You and me both. It's the same.
Loved it. I was like, when I went for the guitar lesson, I was like, no, it can't be. Why is it so hard? And then yeah. Anyway, so that didn't happen. And when I sat down with some of these AI tools, I was like, oh my God, I'm back again with the guitar. But this one I've got to do. There's just
Yeah.
no choice. I've got to do it. But yeah, there's been a lot of 12, 14-hour days sat trying to get this right, and it's ongoing.
No,
But it's kept me busy.
good. And I'm hoping worth the efforts as well.
Yeah,
I
it
think
definitely will be for sure. But it is like,
amazing.
if anything, it's really uncomfortable. It's
Yeah.
really uncomfortable. It was like when I went from, this is way worse, but it was like when I went from Windows PC to Mac. I
Yeah, oh
remember,
my God. Yeah,
I remember
I know
someone saying to
exactly
me,
what you mean.
get a Mac, it's amazing, it'll change your life. I was like, really brilliant. And I got it and I was like, oh, and I just wanted to throw it out of the window for about a week and a
Yeah.
half. Couldn't do
And
anything.
and now try switching back to a PC and
Can't do
it
it.
be the same process.
No, can't do it.
It's wild.
Can't do
Yeah.
it. So it's a bit like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Yeah, it's to get your head around, but once you get your head around it, it's like I don't know how I lived without it.
Exactly. It's
Amazing.
uncomfortable, but it's got to be done.
Exactly that. So, what are the visions for the next 12 months? Have you got any like goals, targets you're aiming to work
Yeah.
towards at the
I
moment?
mean, I think ideally what I'd love to be doing is any of the companies that I used to work with that have got reached that stage now where they do it all themselves, to work with them again now as their AI talent partner.
Yeah.
Because I definitely think there's a lot of room for that. And then, yeah, just to work with some new companies, and they're already starting to come back. The thing about this new AI partner thing as well, like I say, it's not for everybody. Some people are going to want me to just go out and, especially with the more senior roles, go out and just find and nurture and bring interview and bring them in and do the whole process. But I
Mm.
think for if they've got, let's say, they want a steady stream of enterprise salespeople, they want a steady stream of developers with certain kinds of skills or in certain countries, then we can get a steady flow coming
Yeah.
through, which can be passed on without the agency cost, just on a retainer. Sorry, I've just forgotten the question. What was the question?
I think you're answering it pretty well, just targets and goals for the next
Oh
12
yeah,
months.
yeah. So that's so
We're on
ideally
track.
that so brain fog. So ideally, yeah, working with some new clients around that. But yeah, the great thing about this is I don't have to stick to tech. I
Yeah,
can be working with anybody in the world on this. Um,
nice.
I've done quite a bit of work in legal as well, which is I'm doing some stuff around that. And that again is it's really interesting going into a new market because you've got in your head around it. Law is like playing the guitar again.
You're not going for small markets either. You're going for big, heavy, a lot of thinking, a lot of main like brain
Yeah,
power put
yeah,
into it.
yeah.
So
Clearly,
from
like a
tech,
challenge.
SaaS, and then law. The next step should be like medicine.
Yeah, yeah. Biotech has
Like
done
the
some great.
biotech.
But I just see with this, you can touch all markets with it. So if for whatever reason, I did see this last 18 months, the tech side of things for recruitment felt like there was a big shift. So I
Yeah.
was questioning, is this where I belong now? I still think I belong here, but things have got to change. But also I can be dipping my toe in other markets as well, which is nice because it's interesting. It keeps things fresh,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. And we do have to adapt. We can get really stuck in staying in a certain identity.
Mm,
And sometimes, always, the universe is going to move you and say, not that anymore. You're going to be moved
yeah.
because you're going to get to a point where it's so uncomfortable that you have to do something different, which
Yeah.
is essentially where I got to.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the pivot is the freshen up that you need to get things
Yeah,
moving again. And
yeah.
I say, what would you say is the most challenging thing in making all that happen at the moment?
I think now, nothing really. I think now it's just the learning. Luckily I've not had loads of roles on because I've had to literally knuckle down to get
Um,
this. I'm still in it. But prior to this, it was more that free. I felt a bit frozen because I was like, I don't know where this is going. And I was just sitting there like a bunny in the headlights. Don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Don't know what to do. Like where we go now.
Yeah.
And then this whole AI opportunity came where I really saw, okay, this is a model that is going to potentially change recruitment.
Yeah.
And just got on the bus basically rather than sitting there not understanding what was going on. And it's a risk. It's a risk like everything, but
Yeah.
that's what I did in the beginning was I took a risk. I went from doing what I'd always done to jumping into recruitment, which I had very little experience of, and it worked out great. Yeah, just going with the flow really.
100%. You just got to do it and jump in the deep end sometimes. You'll
Yeah.
sink or swim, but at least you get your answer from the end of it. So,
Leap of faith. What's
yeah.
the worst that can happen?
What's the
Leave
worst that
the
can happen?
house. Go and move in with my mum. That's
There you go. And then from there, you just change again. What's the worst that can happen after that? So,
exactly.
keep going.
I'm divinely protected. I'm fine.
Amazing. And just before we wrap up, I've got one final question for you. For anyone who's listening and maybe at the start of their own journey, what would you leave them with to help moving forward?
I think advice is to just just be courageous and take action because I think you can be paralyzed sometimes in fear.
Yeah.
And actually, that is the opposite of what sometimes you just go, I don't know what I'm going to do. Just do one thing out of your comfort zone, and then the rest just unfolds. But yeah, no fear,
Amazing.
courage.
Love it. And with that is a wrap on another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Natalie, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can people reach out to maybe connect and work with you? if they'd like to?
Well, on LinkedIn, Natalie Thompson at Pangaea. If they want to email me, it's the longest email in the world. It's Natalie at Pangaea, which is Pangaea, globalassociates.com.
Love it. Amazing. And don't forget to subscribe to this episode if you enjoyed it as well. So, if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we were able to go from 0 to 30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep climbing, and we will see you on the next one.